Have you ever heard a silence so loud it feels like it's rising from the ground? Not falling, but climbing. It's often said that gravity is what keeps us all grounded, a silent force holding our stories, our histories, to the earth. But what happens when something forgets how to obey? Imagine this: a vast rural farmland, just as the sun begins to bleed across the horizon. Mist clings to the flat fields, wrapping everything in a blanket of grey. The air is still, almost unnaturally so. This is where we meet Helen. She's an early riser, someone who finds comfort in the quiet routines of dawn. As she pours her first cup of coffee, her eyes drift to the window, scanning the familiar landscape. But today, something is different. Faint, almost invisible lines cut through the layer of frost on the field. They look deliberate. Intrigued, she pulls on her boots and steps into the biting morning air, her breath a cloud in front of her. The lines she now sees are a trail of barefoot prints. They're perfect, almost unnervingly so. Each one is the same size, pressed into the frost with the same depth, marching in a perfectly straight line. It's as if they were made by something that had only ever read about walking, something that understood the mechanics, but not the soul of it. Helen kneels down, her curiosity overriding a growing sense of unease. She reaches out a finger to touch the edge of one print. The moment her skin makes contact, the frost vanishes, melting instantly, leaving behind a dark, damp patch of earth. She stands and follows the trail. 20 meters, then 30. The prints never waver, never change. They just continue. And then she sees it, the impossible. The prints begin to lift. The last visible footprint isn't on the ground at all. It hangs suspended, inches above the soil, a perfect impression left on nothing but the air itself. Slowly, carefully, she circles it. A shadow is cast from this floating footprint, but it's cast upward, onto the fog above. A whisper escapes her lips. What is this? But the sound dies the moment it leaves her mouth, swallowed by the strange, heavy silence. The air itself seems to reject her voice. Panic begins to set in. She pulls out her phone to call a neighbor, but the line is filled with static, her words twisting and bending into unrecognizable sounds. It isn't long before others arrive. Neighbors, then a local deputy, their voices hushed murmurs that don't seem to travel more than a few feet. A low electric hum begins to vibrate in the air, a sound you feel more than you hear. The deputy points his flashlight at the ascending trail, but the beam scatters, unable to find a surface to land on. Someone tries to record it on their phone, but the autofocus just twitches back and forth, frantically trying to lock onto something that isn't there. Later, a news report would try to make sense of it, the reporter's voice a mix of disbelief and professional composure. Footprints in the air, ascending. The fragmented videos and grainy photos spread like wildfire online. For a few hours, the world was captivated by the impossible event in this quiet corner of the world. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, it was gone. The next morning, every post, every video, every mention had been wiped clean from the internet. Accounts were deleted. It was as if it never happened. But evidence doesn't just vanish, it simply finds a new place to hide. One screenshot survived, a reflection of the ascending trail captured on the glass of a window, a ghost in the machine. Soon, a new group of people arrived. They were different, quiet, clinical, dressed in sterile, unmarked uniforms. Scientists. Their expensive equipment immediately began to fail. Compasses spun wildly, unable to find north. Thermal scanners, pointed at the invisible trail, displayed cold voids shaped like human feet. But their sound recorders picked up something extraordinary. A faint, rhythmic pulse. 4 beats, a pause, then 4 beats again. A heartbeat from nowhere. That night, Helen couldn't sleep. She stood by her window, watching the sky, and she saw the stars. But they weren't scattered. A handful of them had arranged themselves into a perfect vertical line directly above her field. A subtle, blue-white glow began to hover in the space where the trail had been, constant and unwavering. She whispered a single word into the darkness of her room, just to test the air. This time her voice didn't fall. It drifted upward, thin and light, as if her own words no longer obeyed the ground. 3 days passed in a state of suspended reality. Then it started again. A deep vibration under the soil, a faint pressure building in everyone's chest. The low hum returned, deeper this time, as if the whole world was slowly taking a single massive breath. Outside, the trail had reappeared. But now, it was glowing with a soft internal light, leading from the ground directly up into the sky. Helen found herself drawn to it, her hand trembling as she raised it into the charged air. She moved closer, step by hesitant step, until she could touch the lowest, glowing print. The moment her fingers made contact, shimmering particles lifted from her skin, swirling up to join the light. The glow intensified, climbing her arm, and her silhouette began to soften, dissolving at the edges. Her heavy boots slipped from her feet, landing with a soft thud in the damp grass. Her body grew lighter, pulled by an unseen force. The final, highest footprint pulsed with a quiet, brilliant illumination. At dawn, the neighbors found the field empty. Helen was gone. The only thing left was the strange warmth in the soil and a large, circular pattern scorched into the grass with impossible symmetry. Some traces, you see, don't stay on the ground. They go upward to a place where memory can't follow. But the ground remembers everything that touched it. If you listen quietly and watch closely, you'll realize they are always here. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the unknown. If you enjoy stories that blur the line between reality and the impossible, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. We've got a lot more strange horizons to explore together. See you next time.